Now, as I do believe that many of us are familiar with, there is an ongoing inflation that affects not only society, but us as shareholders as well. But the question is, how does this impact food and beverage companies? Meaning, how does it affect our companies like the Tattoo Chef, Beyond Meat, the Very Good Food Company in Oatly? Well, that's what we're going to talk about here on the PlantStock channel tonight. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're not, then welcome back. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, think about doing so if you're interested of getting information regarding Tattoo Chef, Beyond Meat, the Very Good Food Company, and Oatly, to name a few. And don't forget to hit that bell button. And as always, I would truly appreciate an early thumbs up since it does help spread the video to more people out there. Thank you, folks. I truly appreciate your help. Now, first of all, let's just take a look at what an analyst from Bank of America has to say about price increases in the food and beverage sector.
Higher prices coming later this year. It's yet another blow to consumers who are already dealing with the biggest annual price increase in 13 years. Joining me now is Brian Spillane, Senior Food and Beverage Analyst at Bank of America Global Research. Brian, thanks for being with us. So earnings season is upon us. Do you expect to hear from executives at these food and beverage companies during their earnings call that consumers should be bracing for higher prices?
Yeah, I think you'll hear that in several different forms. But, we began to hear about this as we moved through the first quarter earnings season. And, what we've seen in the market across food and beverage companies is either, price increases having already affected the market or already have been announced. And I think there's also another element to this. In that not only are list prices moving up, but you're seeing companies reduce the depth of their promotions. So if you look at like soft drink sales over the course of Memorial Day, July 4th holiday, the promotional depth was definitely not what it had been the year before. And again, I think that's just another way to try to drive a little bit more pricing in the market.
Mm-hmm. Anecdotally, I'm hearing that prices are higher. I'm seeing prices higher at the supermarket. How bad is it? Really? I mean, what are we paying more for than we have in years? What are some of the sectors of food and beverage where prices are rising perhaps more quickly than other areas?
Right. So, as I mentioned, some of the more promotional seasonal items, you're definitely paying a higher price than you were before. So you're seeing it in areas like soft drinks. I think when you look across other products where there's like a more immediate sort of pass through, you're seeing it in certain areas in the protein market, for instance, like beef prices are high, is another. I think as you move through the course of the balance of this year, you're going to see even more of it in some of the packaged foods. So things like breakfast cereal, snacks, you're going to see more pricing there as you move on through the course of the year. But initially, it's been a lot of these more pass-through categories, and also the ones that tend to be more heavily promoted around the summer holidays.
Right. I mean, to your point, General Mills already warned of higher prices ahead. Constellation Brands, which has Corona beer and other beverages, saying the same thing. But why are prices moving up so much and so quickly? We had been hearing about supply chain issues. Is that really the driving thing right now that's behind these price increases?
Yep. So there's two reasons. One is the input costs for these companies have moved up, right? We'll have Conagra Foods and PepsiCo report earnings tomorrow, and our expectation is that as Conagra is looking out into a new fiscal year right now, and we think that their commodity cost inflation, so what their cost of goods inflation for fiscal 22 is going to be somewhere between 8 and 10%. And, if they're going to try to protect margins, there will need to be an element of raising prices in order to protect margins. So that's one piece, is these companies beginning to sort of get ahead of inflation. But the second part is also in some sectors, there's also just tightness in supplies. And the soft drink market's a really good example. You're still going through a period where can supplies are tight. And so, when I'm guessing we'll hear some of this we expected to hear from Pepsi tomorrow, is just simply with can supplies being tight, it doesn't really make much sense to promote aggressively, because you're going to run out of cans to be out of stock. So there's a combination of supply chain tightness in certain products or certain materials, And also, again, these companies trying to get ahead of what's been the biggest surge in raw material inflation in 10 years.
And obviously, this is also something that will more than likely affect our companies as well, because they are in the food and beverage sector. Now, the question is, has it already started to affect them? Now, my problem is that I live in Sweden, and many of these companies actually don't exist in Sweden as of yet, their product that is. So I don't know if I could see any kind of price increases. But folks, if you're at a place where you have seen these products, that you do buy these products, can you see an increase at this moment? Let me know down in the comments. Now, if we just compare these 4 companies that we talked about in the plant-based business and look at the last month, we could see the Tattoo Chef, the yellow line here, has gone down about 10% in the last month. Then we have the Very Good Food Company, the blue line here. It's been down 19.4%, almost 20%. Then we have Beyond, the black line, around 6%. And then we have Oatly, around 20% here in the last month. So it is quite apparent that the inflation to some extent is impacting these stocks. There's no question about that. Now, obviously, when it comes to Beyond Meat and Tattoo Chef, they have a huge short float. And the question is if Oatly doesn't have that as well. But anyways, the inflation will obviously impact them. So obviously that means that even though everyone needs to eat, if prices increase, it's going to impact companies, right? Now, if we begin with the industry leader Beyond Meat, we also saw them in the segment, right? So there's obviously a risk here because, as we've heard for a long time, there is a lot of people, customers, people who actually like Beyond Meat, but they do complain about the price. Not only that the price is higher than a lot of meat products out there, but it's actually higher than several plant-based options out there. Now, there's a reason for that. There's a reason where there's a premium, but obviously that impacts a company's sales, especially during inflation. And if their products would actually increase more right now during this inflation, well, that might actually impact their revenues even more. But like we know, right now is the summertime. People are taking their vaccines. Restaurants are opening up. So people want to go out eating more. So I think the company will do fairly well in a couple of months anyhow, in these next couple of months. But keep in mind though, even if they will do fairly well to some extent, there is still a risk, because if this inflation impacts the food and beverage company, that means it impacts the restaurants as well, meaning that they might have to raise those prices. So that's something to keep in mind. But we have to remember, this is the industry leader. This is the brand that most people on a global scale are most aware of, most comfortable with probably. So there might still be a good chance that when people go out buying a product, they're going to choose the brand they're most familiar with. And then we have our chef, the Tattoo Chef company, right? That actually had some really great news yesterday. They're launching their products in 1,800 Kroger stores. If you haven't seen that video, take a look up there. And that didn't impact the stock very well yesterday, but today it's actually up around 3% pre-market, about 3.5 hours before the market's going to open up. So that's looking good. But I must say, during this time of inflation, when it comes to prices, if there's one company, one of the plant-based companies that I think will do quite well, that's Tattoo Chef. Especially if we are to trust Stephanie Diekman, the CFO of the company. She has stated on several occasions that because they are, like we know, a vertically integrated business, that means that they can control their prices and their margins much better than most companies. According to Stephanie, they have been in contact with several producers and suppliers. And if my understanding is correct, it does seem right now, anyways, that the contracts won't change. So their ongoing contracts is going to continue for a while longer, meaning that their prices, hopefully, on their products won't go up. And considering that this company has a really strong cash balance, well, I do believe that they could ride out most storms right now without any difficulty. So overall, this could lead that as a brand, if this is a brand that doesn't raise their prices, but other plant-based brands or food brands out there raises their prices, well, they could do much better during this time then. And then we have VRYYF, the very good food company, the very good butchers, and we know they've had a hard time as of late. Like I said, the last month or so, but to be honest, like one of my subscribers, I think Vegan Beef, letting me know, as I do know, that if we take a look at the last half year, I mean, they have been pretty much crushed. But we do know that it has to do that this was a really hyped up stock, and people were really excited about the company. It flew up really quickly because people saw what a lot of us saw, that it's going to have a lot of potential and it's going to do really well long term. Of that, I feel very certain. But that doesn't mean, of course, that the valuation should fly up 3-4 times as it did. And also regarding the inflation now, and if prices should go higher, we know that they are already a premium product. And if their prices were to actually increase, I'm not saying it's going to, but my Canadian subscribers, please let me know down in the comments, have you seen any price increases as of yet? But if that should happen, I think that could mean that the revenues might temporarily get affected. And let's not forget, as we know, they've recently taken out quite a lot of loans, right? About $70 million. So they're quite leveraged on that, which might make this situation a bit tricky for them, especially if they should need to raise their prices given their margins, right? Now, obviously, this is just short-term noise. If you're a long-term investor, this shouldn't bother you at all. And like I said, I'm still bullish about this company. And then we have the company from my country, right? Oatly. That is at the moment actually trading around $22. Pre-market, it does actually seem that it's going to go up almost 4%, but it's right now at $22. And I hope that many of you remember that when this company opened up around $22 for us mere mortals, I said that it was already very overvalued. And it didn't take long before it was trading up to almost $30, around $28 to $29, which means that right now it has crashed down about almost 30%. And obviously it's a bit of a bummer for the company and the shareholders that they IPO'd when the inflation was actually started to get going. So obviously not the best of time, but like I often state on this channel, long term, that shouldn't be an issue, right? Long term, as I think you know, I really believe in this company. I think they will do great things. But in the short term, right, given the inflation and that the prices could be impacted with this company as well, there might be some issues with the ongoing revenues in the next couple of quarters. We'll have to wait and see, of course. But I'm thinking that when a person wants to actually go and replace their dairy products for health reasons, for sustainability, whatever it is, and they take a look at the product, right? And they're like, it's much more expensive than ordinary dairy, or it's more expensive than that other plant-based product. Which should I pick? So obviously there's a chance then that the cheaper brands might do temporarily better. But I must say, like Beyond Meat, this is also one of the most well-known brands out there, especially when it comes to dairy alternative. So they might do quite well anyhow, right? But we're gonna have to wait and see what will happen in the next couple of quarters before we can say too much, right? But I do want you just to be aware that, in my opinion, that might be what some investors out there might be factoring in, that they do realize when it comes to the food and beverage sector, prices are going to increase, which might mean that companies that might already have kind of a premium product, a premium price, and rightfully so to some extent, because it is better for sustainability, it's better for your health. But that might not be what everyone cares about in the beginning. So that might be why people start selling off this stock at this moment. Just factor that in. Folks, please let me know down in the comments. Do you believe that this short-term inflation might actually impact the revenue of our companies in the short term? And how do you intend to handle it? So normally I would say that the good thing with owning food stocks and beverage stocks, obviously, is that Everybody's got to eat, right? No matter inflation time or pandemic, everybody's got to eat. And I do believe that generally, but I also believe that many people, depending on what's going on in society, depending on if you have a job, depending on what kind of wages you have, prices will matter to some extent, especially when times are getting really tough. And if you have different choices, it might be that you choose the cheaper one at the moment. But I also want to point out, whatever we hear about inflation right now, the one that I might be listening to the most right now, even though I want to have different aspects, right, is obviously ARK Invest, queen of investing, Cathie Wood. And she does agree that we are in inflation and we might be seeing it for a few more months, maybe a half a year or so, but long term, she feels that deflation is the thing we need to worry about more. So again, this whole issue with the inflation, raising the prices, well, hopefully that will actually change soon enough. And at times like these, folks, you have to remind yourself once again that it's not about owning stocks, it's about owning companies. Like one of my favorite investors that I often talk about, Shamat Palihapitiya. What I love about what he says when it comes to investing is that he doesn't buy stocks, he buys companies. Given that you are actually an owner of a company, no matter if it's only one share of Apple, right? It's be a very small owner, but you're the owner. So having that mindset, right, that I'm an owner of this company, this is my company, then obviously if that's the case, that means that you want everything that's best for the company. You want to know everything about it, because if it prospers in a really good way, well, that will impact your wealth as well. So remember to check yourself, right? Do you understand the company? Do you understand their product? Do you understand the market they're in, right? The whole sector. Do you feel that they have a good CEO, someone who is actually steering the ship of your company, right? Can you see the vision and the future potential? Because if you do, if you have those knowledge, remember, knowledge is power, folks. If you see those things, then you should have nothing to worry about and can rest easy. Well, that was it for today, folks. I truly hope you got a lot of value from today's video. And if you did, make sure to smash that like button. And if you want to keep getting more information regarding Beyond Meat, TTCF, Oatly, or the Very Good Food Company, to name a few, make sure to subscribe and don't forget that magical bell button. And do not forget, this was not financial advice. These were just my own thoughts and opinions. It's important to do your own due diligence and invest safe. Folks, I truly hope you'll have a wonderful Tuesday. Hope to see you soon, and peace out.